You pick up a frog leg on a plate in France. You eat it without a second thought. Millions of people do the same thing every year. But somewhere in your backyard right now, there's an animal that looks almost identical. Same shape, same bulging eyes, same little croak. And if you ate it, it could stop your heart. Most people assume frogs and toads are basically the same animal with different names. That's not quite right. One of them is dinner. The other one is a loaded chemical weapon wearing amphibian skin. And the reason why goes deeper than biology. It touches on how your own body decides in half a second what's safe to swallow and what isn't. Stay till the end, because the last part of the story is about a mistake humans made with toads that backfired so badly, it's still spreading across an entire continent today. So let's start with the obvious question. What actually makes a toad dangerous? It's not a fang. It's not a sting. It's sitting right there in its skin. Behind a toad's eyes, there are two raised bumps called parotoid glands. Squeeze them, or a predator bites down and they release a thick, milky fluid. Scientists call it bufotoxin. German chemist Heinrich Wieland first isolated it back in 1922. It took his team another 20 years just to map out its exact structure. That's how complicated this stuff is. Bufotoxin isn't one poison, it's a cocktail. Part of it works like digitalis, a heart medication, except at toad-strength doses it doesn't regulate your heartbeat, it hijacks it. Another part is a compound called bufotenin, which acts on the brain like a hallucinogen. Imagine your heart rhythm and your grip on reality both getting attacked by the same lick. But here's what's fascinating. The toad isn't trying to kill you for fun. This is pure defense. A toad can't run fast, it can't fly, it can't bite hard. So evolution gave it something else. Don't be worth the risk. Predators that survive eating a toad once usually never try again. Some species, like the cane toad, take it even further. Every single life stage is loaded with the toxin. The eggs, the tadpoles, the adults. There is no safe age to eat one. So what about frogs then? Why did evolution let some of them off the hook? Here's the twist most people don't expect. Frogs aren't automatically safe. Some of the most lethal animals on the planet are frogs, not toads. Poison dart frogs in Central and South America carry toxins so strong that indigenous hunters used to tip their arrows with them. So the line isn't really frog equals safe. The line is which specific species you're looking at. The frogs that end up on dinner plates, species people commonly call true frogs, mostly lack that parotoid gland system entirely. Their skin stays smoother, thinner, and built for something completely different: breathing. Frogs absorb oxygen straight through their skin. That means their skin has to stay permeable and moist, not clogged with thick defensive toxins. It's basically a trade-off written into their biology. Toads live drier, tougher lives on land, so they lean on armor instead. Frogs live wetter lives, so they lean on speed and camouflage instead. Different survival strategy, different chemistry, and that difference in chemistry is the entire reason one shows up in a skillet and the other shows up in a poison control database. But that's only half the story, because humans didn't figure this out through a lab. We figured it out through trial and error, generation after generation, the hard way. Imagine you're a hungry human a few thousand years ago. You don't have a chemistry degree. You have your eyes, your hands, and whatever your grandparents warned you about. You notice the smooth, quick, water-loving ones taste fine and don't hurt you. You notice the warty, slow, land-dwelling ones make you sick, or worse. Over centuries, that pattern becomes folklore. Folklore becomes tradition. Tradition becomes cuisine. By the time frog legs became a delicacy in French cooking, nobody needed to explain the biology. The rule had already been baked into the culture for generations: leave the warty ones alone. And it might be the strangest part of all, this rule shows up almost everywhere, independently, in cultures that never spoke to each other. Different continents, different languages, same instinct. That's not a coincidence. That's thousands of years of human trial and error, quietly encoded into what ends up on your plate. So what killed anyone who ignored the warning? Real cases exist, and they're not ancient history. Doctors have documented people getting sick after handling toads and then touching their mouths or eyes without realizing it. There are recorded cases of children getting poisoned simply from kissing a toad on a dare. The toxin doesn't care how it gets in. Skin contact, mucous membranes, or swallowing all work. And once it's in your bloodstream, there's no antidote. Doctors can only manage the symptoms and wait, control the heart rhythm, control the seizures, keep you stable, and hope your body clears it before it's too late. Compare that to a frog leg dinner, where the biggest risk is a bone getting stuck in your teeth. That gap between inconvenient and no antidote exists is the entire reason this distinction became so deeply wired into human behavior. But then science confirmed what folklore had already been saying for centuries, and it revealed something people never expected. In 1935, Australian farmers had a pest problem. Beetles were destroying sugarcane crops, so officials imported over 100 cane toads from Hawaii, hoping the toads would eat the beetles and solve everything. It did not go as planned. The toads mostly ignored the beetles. Instead, they spread across the continent, eating almost anything that fit in their mouths. And every native predator that tried to eat one, snakes, goannas, quolls, had never evolved any resistance to bufotoxin. They died in huge numbers. Populations of some native predator species crashed by more than 80% in areas the toads invaded. Humans imported a defense mechanism that took millions of years to evolve, dropped it into an ecosystem that had zero experience with it, and watched it spread like wildfire. Today, there are estimated to be well over 200 million cane toads across Australia, all descended from that one shipment, all still carrying the exact chemistry we've been talking about this whole time. So here's the bigger picture. This was never really a story about frogs and toads. It's a story about risk. Every single day, your own brain runs a version of the exact same calculation those ancient humans were running. You look at food, at strangers, at unfamiliar situations, and some ancient part of your mind is quietly asking, is this the smooth one or the warty one? Is this worth the risk or not? Most of the time, you don't even notice it happening. It's instinct now. It's culture now. It's a rule so old nobody remembers learning it. We spent thousands of years turning hard-won survival lessons into simple habits so the next generation wouldn't have to learn them by nearly dying first. The frog on your plate and the toad in your backyard are living proof of that process. One rule passed down so quietly you never even questioned it. Next time you see a small hopping animal in the grass, you probably won't even think twice before deciding instantly, without knowing why, touch it or leave it alone. That instinct isn't really yours. It's everyone who came before you, still protecting you, one warty little animal at a time.